Okay. Hello, my brothers. Welcome to Mexican Conquistador ENG. We are recording from Mexico, and of course, all of this has a, it has a purpose and an origin. And I want to dedicate this video podcast to all my friends in VR chat that encouraged me to do this, because apparently they are interested in this shit. Okay, let's fucking go. Who am I to judge their what they like? I mean, I like history. Maybe there are other fucking weird people out there that do like history as well. Well, for what they say, it's my passion above everything, and that makes me feel extremely flattered. So, speaking with these little creatures, they tell me, hey, why don't you start telling us all about Mexico? What do you hate the most about Mexico? No, because if you're new to this channel, well, I am indeed Mexican. So yeah, first of all, sorry for my pronunciation. Sorry for in case I fuck up something in this presentation. Of course, this is a podcast, so you can just send it to a second layer and do anything else, work, play, jerk off, whatever the fuck you want to do. So I'm just gonna give this parental advice, this disclaimer. I sometimes use very strong words because culturally here in Mexico we simply don't give a fuck. For example, the N-word doesn't mean anything to me, and I will make a video entirely about the N-word in a future video. But I sometimes use it because, I'm sorry, but I don't have white guilt. My nation never enslaved anyone. My family never owned slaves, and Mexico has been always outspokenly anti-slaves. That's exactly what we're looking about this day. So you'll find out why the N-word doesn't mean anything to me, and yeah, whatever. I use other strong words. I use them as memes. I try not to use them as much because I understand that they are sensitive words for many other people, and whenever I'm in social situations, I procure not to use them. But let's go. Okay, what I hate about Mexico by your boy Juan Enrique Artanabascal. So let's start in the beginning. I prepared just a very, very simple presentation for you, so you have a reference of where we are at if you are looking into the screen. But if you're not looking, don't worry, you're not losing everything. This is to maintain structure above everything. So we're going to start with the pre-Hispanic era. Pre-Hispanic meaning before the Spaniards came here, right? And there's a couple of fucking things that I hate about modern Mexico relating to pre-Hispanic. We're not even going to get to modern Mexico, because by the time I'm finished, you will understand everything I hate about modern Mexico already. And this is one of the things, right? The noble savage. Oh my god, they were so noble. They were so good. Oh my god, look at them. They were so connected to Mother Earth. First of all, they did not. Second of all, they were not noble at all. They had this thing called Guerras Floridas, which is like flowery wars. Why did they call them flowery? Because they fought with flowers like the noble savages they were? No, because they declared wars not to kill each other, but to capture each other. Oh, see, they're so noble. No. So they can capture each other and then sacrifice each other in altars. And they call it flowery because they would open each other like a fucking flower. Let me explain the process that the sacrifices would undergo. So, okay, you put the one you're going to sacrifice in a pedestal on the top of a pyramid, right? Then you take a obsidian dagger and with much care you open his fucking stomach. The obsidian is very brittle, so you don't want to touch any bones. That's why they do it on the stomach zone. Then you get your hand inside that hole, and then you pull your hand up to the point in which you can find the heart. Of course, you have to do this very rapidly. So you are collapsing one lung, you are destroying every fucking system that is not basically the right lung, you find the heart, you take it and you rip it apart. Like you're not even dissecting anything, you are literally ripping the heart apart. And do not underestimate the amount of time that you can be still alive whilst your heart is missing. So if you were very unlucky, you would not only feel everything and literally see your heart and then see how someone fucking takes a bite on your heart. If you're very unlucky and you have a very resilient body, you're probably going to feel how they throw you off the fucking pyramid afterwards. Yeah, very noble savages there, my boy. Yeah. So okay, it's unfair if I don't explain why they do this shit. Okay, I will, but explaining and understanding this will not take away from the fucking savagery and primitiveness that these fucking idiots engaged in. So they thought that the gods required sacrifice, blood, basically. And they were very afraid that if the sacrifices stopped, the sun would not come out the next morning. That's why the sacrifices became even more frequent as time went on. And what they thought is that whenever you sacrifice a body and then throw it off the pyramid, the body would become sanctified. It would become like the body of the god you were sacrificing it to. So the savagery does not stop there. Yeah, you got your heart ripped apart. You saw how some fucking dude high on herbs took a bite out of it and then pushed you through the stairs of a pyramid. Yeah, you're definitely dead. So let's take the third person approach, right? You're in your spirit form, looking at your body, all bloody and stuff, on the base of the pyramid, and then you see this bunch of people that take your body and fucking butcher it to make tamales. Yeah. My gringo friends that don't know how to pronounce tamal, fucking you say tamale. I don't understand why. I and my girlfriend have the theory that all the letters that are not pronounced on French escape as refugees to the English language, because every time I see someone trying to pronounce something on Spanish that natively speaks English, you always add some fucking letters. I don't understand why tamale. Just don't pronounce the E. You're like Japanese people, like, what do you mean? I have to add a letter after every single word. Don't do it. Don't do it. This is just tamal. It's not that hard, bro. Okay, so back on track. Tamales, yeah? Those typical fucking things that we eat here in Mexico, you can still find them around. The only difference is that we do not do it with fucking human flesh anymore. We do it with chicken, and they are delicious. But before we did it with chicken, and we were making our tamales out of fucking human flesh, it was actually a very similar ritual in, symbolism if you compare it to the Christian Mass, because who else engages in human sacrifice and ritual cannibalism? That's right, us Catholics. Jesus Christ was a human sacrifice, and whenever we go to Mass, we take his body and blood as ritual cannibalism, excepting we are not literally doing it, right? We're not sacrificing one dude every day in Mass just so we can fucking do it, right? So yeah. And the reason why we do it is completely different, right? Because their gods, well, supposedly needed a lot of blood, right? I don't know what kind of fucking god needs that, but a god that needs human sacrifice cannot be a god. It must be more akin to a demon. And the reason why Jesus sacrificed himself is because to forgive a sin committed against a god, you can only pay with a god. Like, you cannot... Like, nothing compares to a god, so no matter how much you sacrifice yourself, you will never be on par to the value of a god. So if God wanted you to be saved, then rationally only a god could sacrifice himself to forgive your sins, right? I mean, it's exactly the same ritual, excepting the ends and means are radically different. Like, the esotericism behind it is the same. It's just that it's so much better. And it's partly why Catholicism was so quick to spread here in Latin America, especially in Mexico, because rituals like that could just be refocused in a different manner and tell the locals, hey, yeah, you were doing it kind of right. You just need to make these little adjustments to your beliefs, and you're already engaging in mass. And that's why Virgen de Guadalupe, the Guadalupe Virgin, was such a big deal. I encourage you boys to search for an image of Virgen de Guadalupe and tell me, what does she has on her back? That's right, that's the sun. The syncretism in the imagery of the Guadalupe Virgin is amazing, because it has every single symbolic element of the pagans here in Mexico, combined with everything Catholics believed. As a bonus, right, because this is not something that I hate about Mexico by any means, I will tell you about the tale of Ometeotl. So whenever the visions of the Virgin Mary manifested, if you believe them, I of course do, but I respect if you don't, but the tales say so. The tales say that she appeared to Juan Diego, right, San Juan Diego. When she manifested to him, she said that she was the mother of God, but she did not say it in Greek, in Latin, not even in Spanish. She said it in Nahuatl, which means that she could not use words such as God, Dios, Jesús, Christos, Deus, at all. None of those words. What she used instead is the word Ometeotl. I am the god of Ometeotl. What does that mean? I do encourage you to search it. Ometeotl. So this was a god that the Aztecs already believed in, but they thought that this god abandoned them. This god was a dual god, much like Abraxas, much like Mazda from the Zoroastrianist tradition, that encompassed evil and good at the same time as a whole, a all-father like Odin, and very, very similar to the Christian god. So whenever this guy, Juan Diego, heard Mother of Ometeotl, he was elated. He's like, Ometeotl did not abandon us? Wow! And then he connected the dots. Oh yeah, Ometeotl is the guy these fucking Christians are preaching about, isn't it? And he's like, yep, yeah, it's the same guy. So he converted to Christianism, and he could convert a lot of other Indians to Christianism as well. So this is something that I do believe happened for one simple reason, and is that the Catholic Church does not like this tale that much, because they like to avoid impurities in their beliefs, and having our God be named in the name of another pagan god is not kosher, right? But that's precisely why I think it was true. It's truth that what Juan Diego said. So whatever, before I get excommunicated from the church, let's move on. Okay, cycle of life and death. Okay, so these fucking new age nivas here in Mexico say, and fucking gringos are very, very guilty of this as well. They go to pre-Hispanic settlements, they go barefoot, and they say, I want to connect with the Mother Earth. Okay, bruv. The beliefs that people had here had nothing to do with Mother Earth. They certainly did not do any marijuana, because marijuana is not, original from here. Actually, marijuana is from Asia Minor, so yeah, it's definitely not from here. The pre-Hispanic cultures were not getting high AF with some weed lol. No sir, they were doing ayahuasca and some other hallucinogenics. But what's the problem? Okay, the shamans that you have today have nothing to do with the actual belief system that the native Mexicas had here, because we have undergone too much syncretism between European shamanism, because shamanism is originally European, Christianism, and whatever the fuck is left from the original belief systems that the locals here left. So yeah, you're not connecting with your ancestors, because people, first of all, forget that they have Spanish ancestors as well. Like, we are all mixed race here. Like, there is almost, because there are some, but there is almost no pure indigenous people here, and there's almost no pure Spanish people here. For what my families tell me I am pure Spanish blooded, I really doubt it. I just think that's some internalized classism, and they're like, oh yeah, we're totally Spaniards. Yeah, trust me. No, I believe I do have some indigenous blood sprinkled out there. I know it's very small, but there must be. And even the most indigenous looking guy probably has some Spanish blood sprinkled in there as well, because that's the true identity of Mexico. I fucking hate with all my guts that people here go either the Spanish route or the indigenous route. It's like, oh no, the indigenous were such noble savages, we should go back to them. No, yeah, we should use those primitive tools as again, like forget fucking electricity, return to Aztec monkey. Fucking shut the fuck up, okay? Like, if the Spaniards didn't came here, you would not have electricity, internet, metallurgy. You would still be probably fucking sacrificing the most beautiful woman every single Sunday just to fucking eat her. And probably develop a fucking neurological disease through eating her brains, because prions, my son, prions are some serious shit. Fucking Google prions. Never fucking eat the brains of a human. That's just like a tip that maybe someone in a survival situation may need. You can eat everything in a human body, okay? It's kosher. Eat everything in a human body if you need. I don't have a taboo against cannibalism. Just don't fucking eat the brains, okay? The brains are probably going to get you fucked up. Prions are some serious shit. But anyways, back to track. Yeah, and if the Spaniards were not conquered, some other people would have conquered, and they would have not been as benevolent as the Spaniards. I can assure you, and we will see that through the conquest. Like, the English were absolutely brutal. The fucking Protestants thought that if you were not capable of reading a Bible, you were not human, and thus they were legitimized to kill you and take your land. But here the Spaniards actually took the time to consider it. Are they human? Are they not? How can we know they are human? And lo and behold, they came to the conclusion that in fact the locals are humans, and they treated them so. What a fucking surprise! What an alien concept, right? Wow. Fucking considering humanity and respecting it? Jesus Christ. Okay. So, now, primitive, right? Like, people think that the word primitive is somehow pejorative, like an offense. No, it's not. It's just a descriptive. It's just an adjective, and a very accurate at that. Because, dude, pre-Hispanic peoples, like, there was one bunch of people that were barely fucking entering the Bronze Age. The fucking Bronze Age, my dude. Like, fucking... Do you understand how back in fucking history they were? Like, the Bronze Age to fucking Europeans were so far behind in history. It might as well be mythological. The 99.9% of the people in Europe didn't even know the Bronze Age happened by that time, because remember, by the time pre-Hispanic peoples are getting conquered is the 15th century. So Bronze Age, yeah, kind of fucking far back. We kind of rediscovered the Bronze Age recently, and it took a lot of fucking archaeological work. It was not just a walk in the park to reconstruct whatever happened to the Bronze Age. And guess what? Even today, we don't know much about the Bronze Age. But these niggas were just fucking entering the Bronze Age. Like, what do you mean they were not primitive? What do you mean? They used fucking stone tools. Yeah, they were able to build massive pyramids. Yeah, they were able to build fucking waterworks. You know who else The Bronze Age civilizations, fucking the Minoans, the Minoics in Minos Island, they had massive palaces and they had waterworks there. Yeah, pretty advanced for their time, but that doesn't quit the fact that it's the fucking Bronze Age, my dude. Woo! They were using fucking obsidian weapons. Yeah, that's not what I call exactly peak fucking technology, you know? So it's not a fucking insult to call them primitive. It's just a fact, okay? And I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna go back to that point. Killing people in a fucking altar and throwing them in the stairs of a fucking pyramid is the very definition of primitive. So shut the fuck up, okay? Now, conquest by natives and conquest by gunpowder go together, okay? These are the next 2 points. People think that the Spaniards conquered us. And that's a soft lie. Yeah, they kind of did, but it wasn't them, actually. People think that it was a gunpowder that did it. They thought that gunpowder was such a decisive factor that they just got a fucking technological win, you know? Which is also a soft lie. Because, yeah, gunpowder is fucking horrifying for someone who's just entering the Bronze Age! But no, the gunpowder did not give the Spaniards the victory. What gave the Spaniards the victory is political genius. See, the conqueror here was Hernán Cortés, which is debated if his name was pronounced Hernán or Fernan. This is due to the fact that his name begins with an H, and in ancient Spanish, H was read as an F. So he was probably called Fernán Cortés, but we in modern Spanish, we call him Hernán Cortés, by the way his name was written, I mean. So Fernán Cortés, what he did was, he realized that the Aztec Empire was brittle, not because of their military prowess, no, they were military strong, they were very strong. Economically, they were a powerhouse. The problem is that many of the conquered peoples were not very happy with the taxes that the Aztecs imposed upon them. So what the Spaniards did was pacts with these peoples. They would tell them, hey, boy, okay, how about you help us, you help us destroy the Aztec Empire, bring it to the Spanish crown, like we can make it just pacifically, you know, but if you help me with this, we're gonna lower your taxes. The Spanish crown is going to lower your taxes, and they actually kept their word. That's actually what they did. The Tlaxcaltecas were the tribe that helped the most. Actually, Tlaxcala is still a thing to this day. There's a joke here in Mexico that Tlaxcala doesn't exist because all the other states were reorganized in such a way that made sense, except in Tlaxcala, because Tlaxcala has been always such an independent region in Mexico that it's fucking unmovable. They would refuse joining any other state or becoming a bigger state. It's just like, no, we're just Tlaxcala, fuck you. And it's exactly what happened in the conquest as well. The Tlaxcaltecas were like, we want to be independent to the degree that it's possible. And the Spaniards were like, okay, yeah, you're gonna be an independent part. Yeah, like you're gonna get your own ruling system and your own taxes, and you're gonna have a lot of special treatments, let's say. And the Tlaxcaltecas did in fact help the Spaniards. The Spaniards, first of all, did not attempt to conquest by force. Fernán Cortés came to the Tlatoani, that's how we called our emperors in Mexico. He came to the Tlatoani and he was like, yo boy, do you see my shining armor made out of steel? Do you see my gunpowder? Yeah, it's pretty fucking dope, isn't it? You want some? You can join us. You don't need to fucking we don't need a war. Like obviously we would win the war. Just join the Spanish Empire. Swear loyalty to the Spanish king, and we're done here. Like you can continue being the ruler. Unluckily that did not happen, and unfortunate incident between some of Cortés's troops and the locals developed into a very bloody battle in the capital city of what we call now Mexico City. But then it was called fucking... Oh shit, I forgot the name. Well, if I remember the name, I'm gonna tell you how it was called before. But the point is that there was a ginormous lake here, the Lago de Texcoco Lake. And the locals created chinampas, which were like artificial islands that floated in the lake, so they could build upon those islands. And the Spaniards were absolutely fucking amazed by this. Amazed. They said that it was twice the size and beauty of Venice, and those are some big words, because Venice was a great city, very populated, very, very big, and very, very beautiful. So yeah, saying it's twice the size and beauty of Venice, not an easy thing to say as an European. So there were 3 bridges that connected the mainland of this island, this floating island in the middle of the lake, with the mainland of Mexico, right? And sadly, the Spaniards, when it came to blows, they had to leave the city, and then we had the sad night. There is even a tree that it's called the tree of the sad night, La Noche Triste, in which Cortés wept a lot, because he wanted to avoid bloodshed. And after this incident, which he wasn't even present by the time the incident began, but when he came back, he saw the incident, and he had to take all his troops outside of the city, right? And the bloodshed was so intense that he could only weep in this tree. The tree is still there, supposedly. My mom hugged that tree, actually. And it's a ginormous tree. Afterwards, yeah, he called upon all the allies that he made, and he was like, well, we don't have an option now, so we have to go in and conquer the city. Okay. So they did, and the conquest began. But it was not by gunpowder. Gunpowder was not a decisive part of this. I think it was a very important, but not the decisive factor. If you ask me, the decisive factor were the native alliances. How the Spaniards allied themselves with other natives. I'm very sorry about that, by the way. This is the neighbor. I don't have a better place to record, so we'll just have to bear this fucking sound for now on. But I wanted to say that I'm sorry, because fucking who likes to hear that shit? You know, my boomer fucking neighbor mowing the lawn. Okay, let's go. Evil conquest then was not a thing either, because the focus was always on trying to save as much lives as possible, and the conquest was after what we saw was very religious and cultural. And some people fucking say, oh, they imposed a religion onto these people. Yeah, like, if your religion consists on the basis of sacrificing people in altars and eating them, I'm gonna impose whatever the fuck doesn't do that onto you. I don't care if it's Islam, like Christianism, or fucking Buddhism. You don't have a right to keep on doing that shit. Like, people sometimes forget that there are better cultures than others, and like, we like to act as if all cultures were valid. As a Mexican, I can tell you, no, that's actually factually false. There are inferior cultures, and the Mexican culture was objectively an inferior culture compared to the Spanish culture. And I'm glad that they came and imposed something as rational and as humane as not to eat other human beings, for fuck's sake. Okay, let's move on. Conquest. First of all, colonial question mark? Yeah, some people say that we were a colony, which is factually incorrect. One of the reasons why I cannot call the conquest an evil one is because the Spaniards actually gave us a very... I don't know what that sound is. Okay, whatever. They gave us the status of viceroyalty. A viceroyalty is recognizing you as a kingdom, but just integrating you to the main kingdom or the main empire. So the main kingdom was Spain. There were a lot of viceroyalties. There were the New Spain Viceroyalty, which became Mexico. There was the Rio de la Plata Viceroyalty, which became Argentina. Argentina actually means silver because Argent is silver, and it's because the original name was Rio de la Plata, which translates to River of Silver. And there was the Viceroyalty of Peru. Actually, one of my ancestors was a viceroy in Peru, so yeah, go search for the Abascal Viceroy of Peru. I have an ancestor there. Viceroyalties then became like independent kingdoms, and in the last point of this page I wrote obedézcase pero no se cumpla, which means obey but do not comply. What does that mean? Well, when the Spanish crown would try to give an order to any of the viceroyalties, they would write their edicts with the legend obedézcase pero no se cumpla, obey but do not comply, which means, yeah guys, we know that you have your own stuff to worry about, so if you could do this, it would be great, but we understand if you can't. Like, if we're saying something stupid for your context, just don't fucking do it. But don't forget that it's an order by the Spanish crown, so do try to make it happen, but it's okay if it doesn't happen, basically, right? So this level of comprehension and this level of communication was very, very positive between the Spanish crown and the viceroyalties. It was like, if something utterly fucking stupid would arrive, and the viceroy would say, well, this is fucking stupid, I'm not gonna do that, he would just do it. He would just say, yeah, I'm not gonna do that, and he would just reply in a letter to the king, and it's like, yeah, we're gonna obey, but we won't comply. Yeah, this is undoable, my dude, we're not gonna do this. So we were not a colony, we were a viceroyalty. Afterwards, the reason why we became a colony, because yes, in the later years we became a colony, and that's exactly why we became independent, is because the Spanish crown changed hands. We were Habsburg, which means German house, and then we became Bourbon, which means French house. And the French, they tend to fuck shit up. They tend to be fucking idiotic. Some people ask me why I hate the French so much. Well, this is the first step. The Bourbon house was a house of fucking megalomaniac idiots. For example, not only did they start to treat us as a colony, like trying to mirror everything that the English did, ignoring the fact that the English just arrived, murdered everyone, drove everyone from their home, and then started to, just be English but in a different place. No, they ignore that fact, and they ignore that here the Spaniards and the locals mixed and found each other very hot, actually. Fernán Cortés is the first recorded case as well, actually, in which he found La Malinche, he found this pretty Mayan girl, and he fucked the shit out of her. And that was not rape, by the way, if you're doubting that. No, it was consensual. She found him hot as well. And that was just the poetical beginning to what the rest of the conquest history would be. Spaniards and locals finding each other hot as fuck and fucking each other to oblivion. And thus the Mexican race was born, the bronze race, as Vasconcelos called us. So a matter of humanity was brought up into the attention of the Spaniards. Okay, these fucking new guys, are they human or not? And they created an entire fucking institution to decide if the locals were human or not. And as a fun fact, one of the decisive factors to determine that the locals were indeed human was laughter. Whenever they proved that locals were able to feel joy and laugh and tell each other jokes, it was almost like the decisive factor to say, yeah, they're human. Yeah, they're completely human. They're totally human. I find that amazing. I don't know about you. So at the end of this discussion, they come on the right side of history saying, yeah, they are in fact human, We can procreate with them. They laugh and they can tell each other jokes and they play with each other and they feel love for their children. And yeah, they're completely human. And thus, because we are Catholics, we are completely obliged to behave according to that fact, right? So there was like a beginning of slavery in Cuba. There was like a beginning of slavery, and the Catholic priests jumped in and they were like, "What the hell are you all doing? This is not what we're supposed to do. They are humans, for fuck's sake. You're trying to ignore the fact that they're humans, but they are, no matter what you believe and no matter what you think and no matter how you lie to yourself." Priests like that were quite often imprisoned and killed whenever the Mexican conquest was not even a thing. Whenever they were just doing their stuff in Cuba, because Cuba was conquered first. But by the time they arrived here in Mexico, it was very clear that the locals were human and they treated them accordingly. This does not mean that they did not do evil stuff to them, but humans do evil to humans. That's just a simple and sad fact of reality. So then we go on to have 300 years of a golden age in which there was such peace that we didn't even have a standing army. Yeah, that's right. The Viceroyalty of New Mexico didn't even have a standing army. We had some guards, of course, to protect the ports, especially Veracruz, because of the pirates. Fun fact: pirates did not invaded other ships as often as they invaded cities, and they made like land raids, because finding a fucking ship in the middle of the sea is like finding a needle in a haystack. Like, have you actually seen how big the sea is? It's not an easy task to just say, oh yeah, there's a ship, let's fucking assault it. Because even in the off chance that you find another ship in the middle of the ocean, it's probably going to be of your own faction, maybe another pirate, or even the nation from which you came, and you're a corsair. So yeah, no shot they were raiding ships as often. Then the next question is answered by itself. Was Catholicism so evil? No, actually, I'm pretty grateful. The spirit of conquest the Spaniards had was actually partly impulsed by the fact that they were in a perpetual war with Islam. They were like, are we going to leave these new lands to Islam? Like, no, we have to conquer everything as soon as possible and create a lot of fortified ports so the Muslim world cannot conquer America and spread their religion. So in that regard, they said, like, what we need to do is not only to expand our crown, we need to expand our faith. And thus, one of the priorities was to spread Catholicism. For God and crown, for God and king. That was the saying the Spanish conquistadors had. And they actually did not only respect the Tlaxcaltecan independence, because they would ask taxes of them and they would be inside the political influence of the Spanish crown, but Tlaxcaltecas in a big part would be independent, even in a law manner. Like, I don't know how to explain it. They had their own law, yeah, and that's something that has been preserved unto this point, and that's called the Viceroyalty of the two republics. There was the Republic of Spaniards and the Republic of Natives, and there were specific rules. Like, for example, if a native would commit a crime in Spanish land, there was a way to go with that, and like the natives and the Spaniards would have to figure out who's gonna punish him and under what rules. And the same of a Spaniard committing a crime in native lands, but natives would judge natives and Spaniards would judge Spaniards. So in that sense, it was like a two simultaneous nations existing and coexisting simultaneously. Now, this, as I said, this still happens. It's recognized in the Mexican Constitution that the native peoples have the right to judge their own as their own, excepting if they are committing some anti-constitutional bullshit, right? If you're doing something that is not constitutional, yeah, your autonomy is null and void. Just as the Spaniard Republic, they would say like, hey, you want to do that fucking inhumane shit to him? No, we Spaniards are going to step in, and we're not going to allow it. So yeah, the viceroyalty of the two republics is still alive and kicking. It's not as strong as then, but it speaks miles and miles about the humanity of the Spanish conquistadors, I think. And I think one of the things that I hate about Mexico is how unfair we are to the Spaniards. We are absolutely unfair. We need just see any other conquistador, right? The Portuguese were inhumane, the English were inhumane, the Holland was inhumane, the French were inhumane, even Russians were inhumane. So what do you mean the Spaniards were such a horrible bunch of people whenever they imposed Catholicism onto you, a poor thing? Oh, Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up and try to be thankful for once. God damn it, you would not exist if the fucking Spaniards were not as humane as they were. Shit. And let's give the devil its due. Catholicism did a great fucking job here, okay? Not like the fucking Protestants that just came, shot everyone that was not able to read a fucking Bible, and then created Thanksgiving to fucking act as if they had some kind of positive relation with the locals. So yeah, this is the conquest part. Now independence. Now, oh shit, brother, shit. We are entering into some serious fucking bullshit. This is the shit show. Like here in conquest, things are actually quite nice. Like the things that I hate about the conquest are the things that we do not appreciate as much. But in the independence, oh brother. Okay. First of all, warring independence. Did we get independent through war? No, we did not. We did not. Hidalgo, and all his fucking crew, Hidalgo and the gang, are a fucking farce. Those niggas were not even fucking able to finish the war they began. Fucking no, sir. Those first of all, Hidalgo was a coward, okay? He was not able to finish what he started. If you're not able to finish what you started, you might as well not fucking start it, you stupid son of a bitch. Okay? Then he gets fucking killed and his head is exposed in the Alhóndiga of Granaditas. I've been there. I've seen the cell. It was like a fucking bird cage in which they put on his head, like hanging in outside of the Alhóndiga de Granaditas. And I enjoy watching that bird cage every single time I go. And let me tell you, I go yearly. Every year I go to fucking to the Alhóndiga of Granaditas in Guanajuato. I see that fucking bird cage and I say it deserved. Good fucking riddance. Rot in hell, you stupid bastard. Because I don't like Hidalgo. Maybe you could take a sneak peek into my consciousness and let's say you could tell beforehand that I don't like Hidalgo. But yeah, I don't fucking like Hidalgo. And I don't like any of his crew. Because the revolutionary ethos that we developed after the revolution, these guys tried to create the national myth of war. That they tried to convince us that war was the way through which we were created and preserved, when no. Mexico was neither created nor preserved through war. Mexico is shit at war. We only have one major battle won in our history, and I'm going there. I'm going there eventually because it was won by Porfirio Diaz, and fucking Porfirio Diaz. I would have a fucking body pillow of Porfirio Diaz and sleep with that body pillow every single night, and you will know why eventually. But fuck, okay. Hidalgo was a farce. Then, how did we get independent? Well, my boys in Discord already know because I went on a rant with it, but Iturbide is the true waifu here, Okay, he's the prota. He's the true prota. Like Hidalgo is like the spin-off anime that was made for the secondary character, the shitty fucking anime, but because they had a lot of budget to publicize that anime, it was successful. But read the manga, brother. Read the fucking manga. In the manga, it's not Hidalgo. It's Iturbide. He's the main character. Okay, Iturbide goes to the viceroy Juan O'Donoghue, and he says, "Yo, bruv, like this fucking shit of French niggas trying to tell us how to live with this caste system. It's not very cash money. Yo, what about we become independent? Doesn't that sound Gucci to you, bro?" And fucking Juan O'Donoghue goes like, "Yeah, bruv, that's Gucci. Let's do it, bruv." And they join forces. They arm the Ejército Trigarante, which roughly translates to the triple guarantee army, because I don't remember exactly what they were guaranteeing, but they were guaranteeing something. One of those things was the independence, and they flown the first Mexican flag. The eagle, the white, green, and red was already there. The fucking flag is amazing. I would not mind still having that flag, by the way. The army goes into the main city, Mexico City, not as a warring party, but as a triumphant army. They are received with chants and victory dances, and it was all a great festivity. Sadly, that did not last, because, well, whenever they said, well, what are we gonna do now? Iturbide said, well, I'm going to become emperor. And that wasn't the rational thing to do, because we were always an empire. We, as the Aztec Empire, we were an empire. And then when we were a viceroyalty, we were an empire. We were just part of the Spanish Empire, but we were an empire. And so he's like, yeah, of course, rationally, what should follow is that I become emperor. And some said, yeah, that's completely rational, but here's where the fucking bullshit begins. So the USA, because we were USA's prostitute, not only in the independence, but up until this fucking day, send some people to fucking influence whatever the fuck's happening here, right? And they want us to be a godforsaken democracy. Which was democracy just in name, and you will soon find out why. There was infighting between factions of Masons, Freemasons. The Scottish and the York school, or I don't know how it's called in English, the schools of Masonry, they tried to fight over control here in Mexico, and basically one faction was the liberals and the other was the conservatives. And thus, the great Masonic wars begin. That's what I call the first century of Mexican independence. Okay, so they make Iturbide go away. They say that if you ever come back, we're gonna kill you. He does come back, but to warn us about a potential Spanish invasion, and we kill him. So yeah, that's how we treat our heroes here. That's the destiny of Iturbide, and that is a repeating pattern as well, like you're gonna see. In the first century, we're in constant infighting. The conservatives and the liberals are in constant wars, and I don't mean like ideological. No, I don't mean just fucking arguing in parliament. No, I mean fucking killing each other openly or otherwise. And both parties were absolutely fucking retarded. The conservatives were completely short-sighted, completely fucking, like, they were conservative to a stupid degree, and liberals were liberal to a satanic degree. This is not hyperbolic, and this is not, like, conspiracy crafting either. Like, they were openly satanic sometimes. There were some that actually had these fucking necromantic rituals to summon the dead. I can't remember the name of the specific president that it was very, very famous for it, But yeah, there was one specific president that was very famous for invoking the dead, and I think he was asking his brother to what to do with the country because he felt he was too weak to actually take any decision by himself. But satanic to the degree of trying to prohibit Catholicism at all. Like that, this will come to its peak after the revolution, whenever they will actually try to kill and exile every single Catholic priest from Mexico in the Cristiadas, right? Then the conservatives bring Maximilian von Habsburg, a Austrian guy that they convinced, hey, Mexico wants you to be his emperor. And he's like, oh, okay, I can be that. Yeah, let's go. And he drags his wife, and they start doing some very well needed reforms. They actually start to reorganize the country as need be. And then the fucking whoreson Juarez sells the entire country to the gringos. This is not hyperbolic as well. You can read the Maclean Ocampo Treaty, and this was signed by Benito Juarez, in which he was basically selling all Mexican land to the USA in exchange for military support to take out Maximilian von Habsburg. So yeah, people here think Juarez is a hero just because he was brown. You know, his skin tone was brown. There were a lot of other guys that were skin tone brown, and they were regarded as villains. But just because Juarez was brown, oh boy, yeah, he's such a hero, despite the fact that he did so much damage to the country. He divided the country, and he fucking sold the land, the entire land. Now, some others may be asking themselves, well, I didn't know it was Juarez. I thought it was Santana. And to that I answer, well, it's because we sold it on halves. Let's see. Santana, Antonio Lopez de Santana, was president 11 times, and many of them was actually against his will, because he was the only capable guy that could fucking take the wheel, okay? This guy was a very proficient military and was able to defend the country against attempts of reconquest and stuff and such. So he was proclaimed president many times, and in one of these times he had to attend to the matter of Texas. Whenever he went to try to maintain Texas inside Mexican territory, the war against Texas was a failure, and he was captured and forced to sign a treaties to sell half the land to the USA. Of course, selling, it's in air quotes, right? Because, yeah, it was a fucking steal. And by standards of international law, that contract is not valid. Thus, from California to Texas, everything is legally Mexican territory. But yeah, who's gonna fucking remind that to Biden? No one is gonna remind that to Biden. But fucking whatever, right? Let's just say it's permanently occupied land. We're not going to take it back, that's for sure. And thus the original borders that we now know were settled. And Mexico, in the form and shape that you now know it, was already in such a shape when Juarez sold the entirety of the land, like the rest of the land, the rest of Mexico, to the USA. Some theorize why the USA never made that contract valid. My chief theory is that the Civil War was too much of a problem, it was too much trouble to actually make that contract valid. And since they were trying to already integrate half the Mexican territory, and it was already much trouble, they were like, yeah, nah, I don't think it's a good idea to integrate the rest of Mexican territory. We should just leave it like that. But that was just on the part of the gringos, right? It was Juarez, the whoreson, that sold the entirety of fucking the country for a bit of power. So yeah, remember that every time someone tells you that Juarez was a hero. No, he was not. He was drunk with power. So much so, he was completely capable of selling his own mother, his own nation, to the fucking gringos. Okay, so that's the first century. I'm not going into detail because it is a very depressing century in which, like, presidents, if they lasted 1 year, that was an amazing feat of strength. Like, the amount of coups, assassinations, civil wars, revolutions that took place in the first century was inhumane. If Mexico is still a thing, if we're still existing, it's because of divine intervention. It's not because of the gringos, it's not because of the Spaniards, the French, or the English. No. It's just because God hates us or loves us so that really wants Mexico to exist, because I cannot explain myself after our first century how in the fuck we were able to remain independent. So after this first century of bullshit, Porfirio Diaz arrives and the Porfiriato begins. First, he's elected president, and we had a policy of re-election that made it so you could not be immediately re-elected. So you can be re-elected, but you have to wait another term if you want to be re-elected, right? Porfirio Diaz is elected one term, then another comes. He's re-elected one second term, then another guy comes after him, and the third time, it's the good time, it's the permanent time. You know what they say, the third's the charm. After the third time Porfirio Diaz is re-elected, he legalizes immediate re-election, and he re-elects himself for the rest of his life, basically. Not completely, but basically. The thing is, we needed that. Some call him a dictator, and I do not object to such an accusation, but we must consider we were going out of the first century of war and the revolution, civil war, assassination, and coups. We needed a strong hand to pull us together. Actually, there is a region in the south of Mexico that it's called Yucatan. That we call the República Hermana, or the sister republic of Yucatan, because they have wanted to become independent so many times. And we have Baja California, Norte y Sur, which is the lower California, and they also have wanted to become independent so many times. And thanks to Porfirio, they did not became independent. Also, a little bit of trivia. Porfirio comes from Greek term porphyrogenitos. Porphyrogenitos, or porphyrogenitas, is a term the Greeks used in the Middle Ages to name someone who was born in the purple salon. The purple salon, or the purple room, was a place in which only royalty was able to be born. So it became a royalty title, and sometimes people would try to be born in that room just to become legitimized as royalty. So porphyrogenitos eventually became the name Porfirio or Porfiria, and thus Porfirio Diaz means royalty in itself, which I think it's very esoterical and very significant shit. So anyway, Porfirio and Diaz is just days, literally. Dia, it's day in Spanish. Diaz is just like it's saying many days. Is that simple? So Porfirio pulls us together, and we become a nation. What a fucking surprise! He did some nasty stuff. For example, some of the more rebellious tribes, he would change their places. For example, if there was a native tribe that was being rebellious in Yucatan and another that was being rebellious in Sonora, he would exchange their places. So the Sonorans, who were very accustomed to an arid land, and Yucatans that were very accustomed to a very moist jungle-like land, whilst exchanging positions, they would have to survive before trying to, complain. So he would not technically have to kill anyone. He would just forcibly change them of place so they would stop complaining. So that's not very cash money. Another thing that he did was tiendas de raya, which was basically not paying your employees, instead making them dependent on the place they were working on, which is basically slavery, right? So Porfirio was not perfect, but he was exactly what we needed in the moment. Like, Mexico would not exist today as we know it if not by Porfirio Diaz, because his methods were questionable sometimes, but he managed to modernize Mexico. We have cinemas before 99% of the countries. Actually, we had cinemas before USA, because Porfirio was absolutely obsessed with the French. Why, you ask? Well, because he fought the French in the French-Mexican War, and the Battle of Puebla is the one I was talking about that he won. Actually, his general was asking him to retreat, and he denied the order to retreat, and he ordered his troops to charge to the French, and thus he won the Battle of Puebla. And he was famous in the military for just expending the barely minimum amount of gold needed to make his troops work. The other generals would try to spend every single coin and would justify stealing the rest of the coin, basically. But he would actually spend the coin specifically in what was needed to make his unit as functional as possible, and he would give the gold that he did not need back to the army. So he made himself a name in the army, and he was very well liked amongst the army, so a military coup against him was completely unthinkable. He was also very well versed in military tactics, so a war against him was also completely fucking unthinkable. Not only that, he modernized our armies as well. We have such powerful artillery in our coasts that we were able to deter USA invasion. They were so good, those cannons, that actually Israel, whenever they were constituting themselves, whenever they were trying to consolidate themselves, and make the math, like Porfirio Diaz is from the beginning of the last century, or the ending of the 19th century. Those artillery pieces were so good that whenever Israel was constituting itself, they asked to buy those pieces of artillery for themselves. And I do not know if they're still used, but yeah. He popularized the telegraph around all the country. He popularized the train around all the country. He popularized the telephone whenever it became a thing. He popularized cars. He basically modernized Mexico. He made Mexico a real nation and not just some make-believe fucking toy nation. And, well, what I hate the most about the Porfiriato is that we do not appreciate it enough. We concentrate so much on the evil stuff that Porfirio did do that we often forget that we were, like, our money was even stronger than the dollar in those times. We were more powerful than the USA thanks to him. Our military was able to kick USA's ass. Our money, our coin was able to kick USA's coin's ass. Our energy, our communications, our transportation was all so fucking good. Shit! It's amazing what he did for the country. And you know what they say, to bake a cake you have to break some eggs. Sacrifices must be done. And this is not to justify, but this is to understand that sometimes one needs to make difficult decisions. So one of the most famous quotes from Porfirio Díaz is "Pobre México, tan cerca de Estados Unidos y tan lejos de Dios," which translates to "Poor Mexico, so close to the USA and so far from God." And yeah, that was like a self-fulfilling prophecy, because what happened is that after he saw that the thing was becoming unwieldy as him becoming president so many times in a row, he said like, okay, you want to become president, okay, amazing. I'm gonna go away. Yeah, I'm just gonna retire. I'm going to France. Fuck y'all. If you're so unthankful as to just trying to kick me, I'm just gonna go. And let me tell you this, because this you can investigate by yourself. Whenever he went to France, he did not went in a military boat. He went on a civil boat. He did not even go in first class. He went as a civil. He had no security with him. He had no soldiers. He had no policemen. And there's photos of him leaving the port, and everyone cheering him. Everyone cheering to him. And I would be there cheering too. Like, what a fucking madman. He took a steaming pile of shit and he transformed it into a country. Yes, that is the virtuous kind of dictator. We often forget those exist. The Romans, they had an institution called the dictator, which, well, the name may suggest what they were already. The thing is, the Romans already recognized that sometimes a dictator was necessary to pull the country together. They were a republic 99% of the time, but whenever war came and crises came and civil war came, a dictator was named for a limited amount of time. Such is the story of Julius Caesar Augustus, Imperator Romanorum. Yes, Jesus Christ! Like, we often forget, like, in the name of democracy. By the way, USA, you're not a democracy. You're a republic. Stop fucking your terms up, because you're imposing true democracies onto other countries, and democracies are bullshit. Democracy is bullshit. The way in which the USA works is actually a republic, and that's why they work so well. That's why they function. But you go on to other countries and you impose democracy, and no wonder why it never works. But, well, that's a mini rant there. So in the revolution, what happened is that Porfirio Díaz caught wind of a conspiracy against him made by Francisco y Madero. What Francisco y Madero was doing was gathering support from the USA. Francisco wanted to, just like Juárez, create a revolt and overthrow Porfirio Díaz. Porfirio Díaz goes away, election takes place, a president is elected, and Francisco y Madero is not happy. So even though we do have a constitutional president, even though we have a constitutional election, even though we have a constitutional everything, he goes on to create a revolt anyways, and he starts the revolution, even though everything the fucking Mexican people asked for was already given. And the thing is that the son of a bitch wanted to be president no matter what. Okay, great, marvelous. He could not just wait to the next election, I guess. Then, because he did not comply with the terms of his contract with the USA, a military coup takes place against him. And then, after the event that we call the Cena Trágica, the Cena means number of 10, which in this case is 10 days, the Cena Trágica. It was a period of 10 tragic days in the capital in which it was like an anarchy. It was everyone against each other. There's a couple of stories about it, actually. One of my ancestors, my great-grandfather, he was just doing his hair, in his hairdresser, and his wife was like, "What are you doing? People are shooting outside. You should be fucking covering." And he was like, "No, vieja. Vieja is It's a way in which some Mexicans call their wives. Vieja means old lady, but it's an endearing way. It's not an insult. No, vieja. Si me toca, me toca. Si no me toca, no me toca. Which means if it's my time, then it's my time. If it's not my time, that's not going to be my time. And after he says it, a fucking machine gun. By the way, Mexico was very advanced in weaponry. We had the first air-cooled machine gun. We had the first repeater rifle, the Mondragon. We were beasts, you know. But well, whatever. A machine gun shoots at the window and leaves a trail in the wall, goes to the hairdresser, breaks the glass, and it should have killed him with a bullet to the head, but he does not drop dead, and his wife is completely fucking amazed by it. And we have the hairdresser to this day, and we've seen, because there was wood behind that glass, so they replaced the glass, but if you remove the glass, you can see the bullet holes. And they showed me the bullet holes, and indeed the bullets skip one bullet wherever the head of my great grandfather was supposed to go. And he just turns to his wife and says, "Ves, vieja, no hay pedo," which means, see my old lady, there's not a problem. So yeah, that's a little bit of family history from me, from the Decena Trágica. And the revolution, I'm not going to go into detail. I'm just gonna name drop some niggas because fucking I really get really worked up whenever I talk of the revolution, because it was such a senseless period of bloodshed. I cannot understand for the life of me why did we do this. Whatever. The revolution goes on to use everything Porfirio Diaz did against Mexico. The trains were used as military transport. The telegraph was used to communicate military strategy between the federal forces and the revolutionaries. You could not communicate with anyone in the other side of the country without being spied on. And many people were killed just under suspicion of conspiring for or against any of the two factions. By the way, the revolutionaries were not unified as well. There were many factions of revolutionaries fighting simultaneously across all the country. And these people are lauded as heroes now. This is one of the things that blow my mind away so much about Mexico. I cannot believe for the life of me that these rapists, murderers, and fucking imbeciles are the heroes of our nation. I cannot believe for the life of me that our national myth is built upon the skulls, blood, and flesh that these sons of bitches fucking spilled. And it was not like there's no consideration to make like in the case of Porfirio Diaz, right? In which you say, yeah, he was a son of a bitch in some regards, but generally he was a net positive for the country. No, these guys were absolute net negatives in every single regard. Every single thing they did was fucking rape, pillage, and destroy. It was incredible. So whenever the revolution is starting to die down, a guy called Calles, which is funny because his name just means streets. Yeah, you can look it up. Just look up the president Calles with double L, Calles. Calles fucking says, "Oh, you know, what if I make Catholicism illegal and I kill and exile every Catholic priest?" Now, if you remember what we talked about in the conquest, Mexico is basically one of the biggest parts of its identity. It's its Catholicism. So this was a very, very bad idea, because he had the opportunity to pacify the country and end the revolution once and for all. And instead of that, he took this stupid decision and he extended the revolution into what we now know as the Wars of Cristiada. Cristiada is basically like a Mexican crusade, in which the Catholic families would rebel against the government, meaning almost every single fucking family in the country rebelled against the government. And if you were not rebelling against the government, it's simply because you were too tired of the bloodshed. There was no other reason. Calles underestimated the will to fight that Mexicans have. This war ended up in a stalemate. No one actually won this war, but at least Catholicism remained a thing in Mexico. But Calles went on to be the first president of the PRI political party, which is called Partido Revolucionario Institucional, which is called the party of institutional revolutionary party. It's like they try to institutionalize revolution, which sounds fucking gay whenever you put it into the perspective of what the revolution did to Mexico. And this is not a nice gay. This is a fucking bad gay. Okay? So this starts the period of the Dicta Blanda. For those who do not know, dictadura is the word for dictatorship in Spanish. Dicta Blanda, it's a word game, because dicta means to dictate, dura means hard. So a hard way to dictate. But the dicta blanda means soft. It's a game of words that means, yes, it's a dictatorship, but it's a soft dictatorship. It's dicta blanda. It's not a dictadura, because we acted as if we were a democratic country, but curiously, every single president was of the same party. How interesting. We supposedly had institutions, but whenever an institution served no purpose at all to the government, even though it helped the populace, it would go away. How curious. And if someone wanted to make a change, he was instantly killed off. There were even public massacres, killings. There are many events in which you can see the state just being absolutely dictatorial to the people of Mexico, and thus this is what we call gatopardismo político, which is an expression in our political jargon to call "may everything change so nothing changes." Gatopardismo político is, we're gonna change our president, but it's just going to be the same as the last president. We're gonna change our party name, but it's going to be the same party anyways. We're going to become a democracy just so we can remain a dictatorship. We're gonna change this so everything remains the same. This is basically what happened after the Cristiada up until the point of the 2000s, in which we, for the first time, elect really democratically a president. He is Vicente Fox. He is the first PAN president, PAN being the party from which he was. He's the first right-wing politician to be elected into office in more than a century, actually. And he marks the start of the true Mexican democracy, which has come into question as well. But anyways, that's basically it. That's what I hate about Mexico. And for those who were paying attention, I just fucking told you the entire Mexican history, so I hate almost everything about Mexico. I hate, oh my god, it's like hating a a family member, you know. You hate him, but you cannot stop loving him. Like, I love Mexico, yeah, I do, but I so much hate him as well. Such a fucking stupid country. What? Again, I do not understand how we still exist. I do not understand how we are still a country. I do not understand anything about this. Like, fucking, it's amazing in all the bad ways, in the worst ways, how Mexico has come to be what it is, and how treacherous, how fucking, how dishonest our story is told, how unthankful we are to our true historic heroes. Jesus. But there's one thing for every bad thing that I said, you know, because if Mexico is still a thing, it's because of its people, you know. There are many tales of actual Mexican heroes that are lone wolves acting on their own accord, like Teniente Azueta with Z. This guy in the USA invasion, he was on Veracruz, and he was like, I'm not gonna give up this country to these fucking gringos. So he coordinated a squad of prostitutes. Actually, he was the only military in the squad, and the prostitutes would act as the supply line for him. But he would just station himself in a main avenue with a machine gun and a trench and kill as many gringos as he could. And by God, he did. He lasted a long time, even with 2 shots on his body, and he went in a blaze of glory defending his country. So impressed was the USA general that he actually offered to him to be treated with USA medicine and USA medics in exchange for a place in the US Navy, in the US, I don't know if it was the Navy or the Army, but he spit on his face and he said, antes muerto que gringo. I would rather be dead than being a fucking gringo. And I mean, if the gringo is coming to your country, invading and thinking he has the right to take your fucking country away, yeah, spit on his face and kill the motherfucker. Fortunately for us, the relationship between USA and Mexico has massively improved. And I don't think that will ever happen again or need to happen again. But I'm warning you, my Anglo brothers, you come here and you think you have the right to my country, and I will go in a blaze of glory just like Azueta. So fucking don't try any funny stuff here. The problem in Mexico is not conquering it because of the army. You would probably defeat the army in 15 minutes. There are mathematic predictions of how easy USA could invade Mexico, and in, yeah, it's probably like 15 minutes. The problem is not the government, the institutions, or the army. It's the people. You will never take this country. You will have to replace every single Mexican with an Anglo or a German to conquer this place, and that would take you centuries. So, as a warning to future gringos with delusions of power, don't even try it. But yeah, that's basically it. I hope it was entertaining. I hope it was as passionate as you expected it to be, and I hope it was not too long for you. As again, the visuals were not very strong, but I hope that my way of telling shit was enough to keep your attention. I will be thinking on the next podcast because so basically you told me, guys, to make the second podcast about whatever makes me more passionate. Problem is, I cannot decide what makes me more passionate about history. I could just touch upon war. I could touch upon the Second World War. We could touch upon medieval societies, but which of all? We could touch upon specifically the Holy Roman Empire, or the Byzantine Empire, or the Spanish Empire. Like, there are so many options for me that I will have to narrow down my options by a lot. I will think about it, and whenever I think about it, we will probably be back next week with another podcast. So thank you for listening, and until then, I'll be seeing you all.